I'm Jordan Rayner, and this is the Word Before Work. Today we're reading one of my favorite verses, Romans 8:28. Here's what it says. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. In the booming city of Chicago in the 1860s, there lived a young Christian family of 6 whose patriarch was a prominent lawyer and investor. All was going well for the young man and his family until the Great Chicago Fire destroyed much of his real estate. The loss was significant, but it paled in comparison to the tragedy the man would experience just 2 years later, when his wife and daughters were in a shipwreck as they sailed from New York to England. All 4 daughters died in the crash, and upon arriving in England, the mother telegrammed her husband in Chicago 2 words: saved, alone. The husband left Chicago right away, of course. He sailed off to England to meet his grieving wife, and we don't know much about his journey across the Atlantic, but I have to imagine the man spent his days alone, grieving his loss and questioning his God. I can see him staring out the window at the sea, maybe reading the biblical account of Job, a man like him who had been blessed with a lot, only to see it all taken away from him in the blink of an eye. We don't know much about what happened on that ship, but we do know this. As the ship crossed over the spot where the man's daughters were now resting in peace, Horatio Spafford wrote these words: "When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul." Spafford had a hope that wasn't rooted in himself or his ability to push through his suffering, or even the fact that his wife miraculously survived the crash and was waiting for him on the other side of the sea. No, as his classic hymn shows us, Spafford's hope was rooted in something way deeper: Jesus and his work on the cross. As he wrote in the second verse of his famous hymn, "Though Satan should buffet, though trials should come, let this blessed assurance control, that Christ hath regarded my helpless estate, and hath shed his own blood for my soul." As Horatio Spafford was sailing across the ocean, mourning the loss of his children, he was writing about the cross. Why? Because his hope was rooted in a God who understood his pain, a God who watched his own innocent son die on a cross and used even that event, the worst event in history, for his glory and our eternal good. Believer, the trials that you and I face personally and professionally will almost certainly pale in comparison to Spafford's, but our source of hope is the exact same. If you lose your job, if you're late to ship your newest product, if you're forced to lay off an employee, even if your business fails entirely, you can look to the cross, as Spafford did, and say, it is well with my soul. Romans 8:28 reminds us that, quote, "We know certainly that all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." As you and I go about taking risks to create culture, failure and adversity are inevitable. But we, like Spafford, have hope that God is working every single thing for his glory and our ultimate good and sanctification. Today's devotional only scratches the surface of how God's word connects to our work. If you want to go deeper, sign up for my free 20-day devotional called The Word Before Work Foundations at twbwfoundations.com. These email devotionals are designed to help you gain a rich understanding of the biblical narrative of work, how exactly your work matters for eternity, and what those truths mean for how we ought to work today. Sign up right now, again, totally free at twbwfoundations.com.